Here we are going to use our layout, or you can use Steam community layouts. I'm going to use the Steam controller default layout. Hit Edit Layout. As you can see, it's a controller regular layout. Let's start with action sets. The default is your layout. Click on Add Action Set. I don't know why the default name is not shown. If you chose None, you will get a new empty layout. Choose the invisible button to copy your default layout. Name it Controller or whatever you want. You can use Copy Layout from Set to get the same binds from previous profile. Now you can add one more action set for the looting. And now we have 3 profiles to switch back and forth. Here is the looting profile if you want to set some keybinds to use. Whenever you open your inventory, such as moving while looting, or using a different keybinds to interact and drop. Now a very important tip. Your first profile layout should be mouse and keyboard keybinds. For tapstrafe to work in-game, you need to have all your keybinds set to keyboard. If you did use a controller input in-game, the game will block tapstrafe for 0.5 seconds. Let's start with the keybinds. I'm using a default layout in-game. You can use whatever you want. I'm using A to jump, so I'm going to replace that with space. Same goes to B to slide. Replacing it with my sliding keybind in-game. Change X to your keyboard interact and pick up loot keybind. Now for the Y, you need to bind a key for cycle weapon in-game. I use E. For the keyboard and mouse player cycle weapon, you can't hold to hostler weapon. So to fix that, add an extra command and set it to hostler keybind in-game. Set hostler keybind to hold press. In settings, you can set how long you need to press the button to activate the command. In the cycle keybind settings, you should always keep the interruptible check on for the long press to work properly. If you're having any kind of input delay, set the haptics intensity to high instead of low or off. Now regular press will cycle weapons and hold will hostler it. For the left bumper, I use it to activate the Legends Tactical with Q. So let's change that to Q. Add an extra command to activate the Legends Ultimate Mindset to Z. Changing the extra command to long press allows you to use the same keybind, Tactical and Ultimate. Same as we did above, the interruptible checkbox should always be on. We don't want the regular press to interface with the long press. Change the right bumper to any keyboard keybinds you like. Set Start button to Inventory keybind, and the Select key to Map keybind. Now go to D-pad binds, and change all the buttons to keyboard keybinds. You can leave it as controller inputs, but keep in mind that it will interface with tapstrafe for 0.5 seconds. D-pad left for jump tower and heat shields in zone using double press. And like I said before, if you are having any kind of input delay using a button, set haptics intensity to high. For the tap time, the longer you set it, the slower you can tap the button. And I set regular press to change from auto to single fire back and forth. I use G to use grenades and T to spin heirloom. D-pad for grenades and heirloom spin with extra command. You can use turbo to keep spinning it. Set it to long press. Long press time, the lower you set it, the shorter you need to hold the button to activate the extra command. For the grenade, I use double tap, press. You can use regular press, but holding the button will activate the long press command instead of opening the grenades wheel. Interruptible checkbox for the regular button should always be on. If not, whenever you hold Y, it will hostler the weapon, and when you press it again, it will unhostler but switch weapons too. Now for the triggers part. Bind left and right trigger to mouse binds. Hit the settings wheel and set analog output trigger to off for the button to work as mouse input and not a controller input. You can change threshold trigger style if you are having any kind of problem using single fire weapons. Now, for the movement part and setting up tapstrafe. Strat with adding a mode shift for the left joystick. Use directional pad to bind WASD. Set all buttons to long press. Turn on hold to repeat to bro. Set long press time to 0. Repeat tear to 10, intensity to high. Now after doing all that, you need to add a turbo button to jump. Set the space key to long press. Turn on turbo. Set it to high if you are having a kind of delay for the jump to start. Try using soft press instead. We are done with setting up tapstrafe binds. Stick mouse. You can bind right stick click to whatever you like. In the joystick mouse settings, change mouse sensitivity to what you find it works for you. For me personally, 800 works the best for me. Change the curve to liner for the best one-on-one movement. Change the dead zone to custom strat with 6,000. If your right stick is shaky, increase the number. If it is not responding enough, lower the number. Try messing around with haptic intensity if there is any kind of lag when moving you right stick. Now for tapstrafe to work, you need to change your regular moving bind to keyboard 2. Change the left stick behavior to directional pad and set the keybinds to WASD. Now let's set an activation button for the tapstrafe. Click on settings wheel for the tapstrafe. Set the activation button to whatever you like. For me personally, I'm using right bumper to tapstrafe. When I set right bumper to activate the tapstrafe, Steam will add a mode shift by the right bumper in the buttons section. Remove the right bumper bind. We don't want to start the tapstrafe and keep pinging at the same time. Set the intensity to high. Try with and without turbo button to check which is working better for you. Now if you want to change the activation button, just go to left stick mode shift and change it to whatever you like. For example, you can use left stick click or any other button. But keep in mind using some buttons to activate the tapstrafe might interface with another bind. Like when using left click to tapstrafe, you can zoom in and out with scoop. You need to bind left shift keybind to another button. For example, double press D-pad up with extra command to left shift and keyboard to zoom in and out. Now, as you can see our mouse and keyboard profile all set. Last and not least, now you need to set keybinds to switch between profiles. In the first profile, mouse and keyboard profile, choose a button you would like to. Use to switch to the controller layout. I'm using D-pad down, tap the button. You will see action sets option on the top bar. Change action set. Choose set to controller or the name you put earlier. Uncheck the alerts when changing profiles. You can change press behavior to double or long press to switch. Now we have a keybind to switch to controller profile. We need to set another keybind in the controller profile to switch back to MNK profile. Choose the controller layout from the top left corner. Go to D-pad buttons. Choose D-pad down and set it to change active set. Choose default profile. Change to double press. I used regular press in the mouse and keyboard layout to switch to controller profile. You can use long press instead. And double press to switch back to mouse and keyboard profile. You can use another bind to switch back, such as D-pad down to switch to controller, D-pad right to switch back to mouse and keyboard. All other binds in the controller profile will act like your regular binds. Now for the looting profile, it is an extra profile to bind some keybinds if you want to move with looting or use another binds to pick up or drop. To activate this profile, only when the cursor is shown, like when you open a death box or you inventory. Go to Action Sets, then Global Set Options. Set Action Set when cursor shown to looting, and Action Set when cursor hidden to default. Now it will automatically switch back and forth between default and looting profiles. Now, if you want to do auto switch profile like I did in my previous video, go to Triggers and set Lift Trigger Bind to change action set to controller. And set it to start press. So when you are holding lefting trigger, it will automatically switch to controller layout. Now change the profile to controller and add an extra command to switch back to mouse and keyboard profile. Set it on release press. All done. Hold left trigger switches to controller profile. Release it, switch back to mouse and keyboard. You can do the same to hip fire, but you won't be able to neo-strafe when firing, and it will interface with the left trigger profile switch. Example to explain. When holding right or left trigger switches to controller profile, and when releasing one of the triggers, it will switch back. So if you are aiming and shooting, and you release shooting trigger, it will switch back to mouse and keyboard profile, even if you're still holding left trigger. Please make sure you watch the whole video before leaving a comment asking about something. I might explain in the video. Also, it took me too much time to achieve this workaround. Please consider leaving a like. Enjoy.